I'm just a practitioner. I just love practicing Wing Chun, but I'm not a Sifu. The people train with me, they don't call me Sifu or anything. They just for me, it's just Kung Fu brothers.
Yes.
It's just like my Dai Siheng Albert. He never called himself a Sifu. So if my Dai Siheng can't call himself a Sifu, why would I call myself a Sifu?
Well, that's true. And this is a thing that's always been really on my mind, is that for us non-Chinese, there's always been this sort of a screen of cultural, not really knowing a lot about Chinese culture, except some people who get the chance to live in China or Hong Kong, or know a lot of Chinese people. But
I mean, I'm not. It's just my personal choice not to call myself a Sifu, because I have a real understanding of what Sifu means. But I understand that other people, they may not understand the title of Sifu. So, and in this commercial world, it's better to be qualified so that people can, believe in you. So that's why other people call themselves Sifu. That's fine. I don't have a preference with that, because I never treat Wing Chun as a way to make money. So that's why I don't need to have that financial obligations or relationship with it.
Yeah, I understand that. And I feel the same way. I've never made a cent out of Wing Chun.
Exactly. That's the best thing, is so that you know why you want to practice Wing Chun, instead of you have to do a certain things to make it look like it.
Yeah, that's a wise way. And I think some people find that balance between making money out of it. And I think where I live here, there's not a lot of interest in martial arts. And up on I live south of the border in northern New South Wales.
Yeah,
people are more either very bushy, very Aussie bushy. They like the footy, they like the drink, they like sort of Aussie stuff.
Enjoy life, because the mother nature is just treating them too kind. They don't have to worry about any other things.
That's right. They're not getting into fights. They're not in a dangerous place where people are attacking them, so they don't seem to think about it. On the Gold Coast, it's much more popular, but of course, it's all about MMA. It's all about fitness, boxer size.
Well, but if you look at the history of martial arts, Wing Chun is a young martial arts in terms of the time. Okay, so at that time, Wing Chun may be looking as a weird martial arts anyway. A weird martial arts that, if according to the history, invented by a woman, is weird. How can a woman invent a martial arts? So for me, every martial arts exists for a reason. Suits at that time. Okay, so maybe now we look at it, MMA is a new thing, but MMA is just a blending of some old stuff combined together in a commercial way that makes sense now. So, and if 50 years, 100 years later on, then they will look at MMA as a different thing. Because if you look at MMA, they evolve as well, from the Gracie brothers back in the original stages, when they took it on from Brazil to United States, all different styles competing each other, just making sure their style are more favor with the rules, and then later on it stands out. But then after that, after about 10 I think 10 series, or 10 UFC 10 or UFC whatever, then you start to have people blending in a little bit, so that no one art will dominate anymore. Then it becomes a matter of who's got the better athleticism. But I'm sure, because it's still a young kind of martial arts, so to speak, so it will evolve again. So who knows? We are just participating in history. So
that's true. Well, when I first heard MMA, I didn't realize it was sort of like a brand. I started in the 70s.
Yeah.
Big fan of Bruce Lee. About 1975, started training with this guy who was a third dan in Taekwondo. But we just wanted to know Bruce Lee style. We wanted to know Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah, the way of intercepting feast.
Yeah.
The famous word that he borrowed from Wing Chun, but again, not specifically in Wing Chun.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I was an absolute Bruce Lee fanatic. And when I first struck, I always wanted to learn Wing Chun. I thought, you know, this is, if I'm going to be like Bruce, I have to learn Wing Chun eventually, but I could never find it, which I'm glad of, because there's streams of Wing Chun I could have got into, which I would wish I did now.
You don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah, but I started in the 90s, and I was really surprised when I was told it was invented by women. I thought, like most macho blokes, I thought that doesn't make sense, because when I'd fight girls in my early sort of kickboxing days, they just weren't in the event. Yeah. And I'd have to go real easy on them. And I thought, how can women create something like this? And then I quickly found, yeah, this is true. And I met Susanna Ho, and she impressed the heck out of me.
But it may not be true. Anyway, for Chinese, as Chinese, anything longer than 50 years, you don't believe it.
Yeah, Chinese are classics. I've always clicked with Chinese people, and it's a funny thing. I haven't got any Chinese ancestry, but I always feel a real kinship with Chinese people. Yeah. When I watch Kung Fu movies, even though those old ones in the 60s and 70s are sort of low production value, but I always found them really charming, and I liked the people, you know, I liked the characters in the movies, and that's why I like Way of the Dragon's my favorite Bruce Lee movie, because Enter the Dragon's fantastic, but it's very Hollywood, whereas Way of the Dragon, it's got that.
Way of the Dragon was directed by Bruce. It's his own story. So
yeah.
That's why people will start to get some ideas of what Bruce Lee wants at that time. You know, yeah. He's still heavily influenced by Hollywood, because it's just the way it is, you know.
Well, he'd done that season in The Green Hornet, and he'd been around all those big time movie stars, and
that's right.
He wanted to be the Chinese Steve McQueen.
That's why you have that, you know, Colosseum fight. You have all those, you know. So he's just a different character. That's all. He just, you know.
I really modeled myself on him, and I must admit, in that teenage way, I really wanted to be Chinese. You know, I was like, God damn it, why can't I be Chinese?
Well, don't worry. You won't be as happy if you're Chinese. I can guarantee.
Really?
Yes, because one Chinese word can have so many different meanings.
Yeah.
That's like Sigung Chu Shong, relaxation, but there's a lot of meaning behind it, which other people may have misinterpreted.
Well, that's something I wanted to ask you about. But first, let's just introduce you. I've got a few things I've been dying to ask you. I love this. You know, that's been one of my inspiring texts.
One of my long hours work.
Yeah. Well, I'm a linguist. Like this is all Icelandic. Mm-hmm. That's Icelandic language. That's one passion. I've taught myself a fair bit of Japanese. The only Chinese I really know is just words from Wing Chun and Lei Hao Ma and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I hope people will get benefit from that, because the reason why the DVD was made was Sigung was fairly ill at the time. We didn't know how long he would be alive. Strangely, he's alive for another, I don't know how many more years, due to the power of Tao.
Yeah.
You know, so everyone at that time just try to contribute and help out. And I hope that because I was lucky enough to to be the translator for Sifu Gym for Sigung at the time when Sigung was doing a seminar. So I kind of find a way to translate to the fellows, to the other people that they want to find out more about Sigungs and Sigungs teaching at that time. And I got the experience of sometimes Chinese words are a little bit harder to translate, especially on stage when Sigung has no script. I remember I deliberately had a dinner with Sigung before the seminar. I said, Sigung, this is the first time I'm doing the translation and I want to make the most out of it. Can you tell me what you're going to talk about? Rough ideas, not word by word. He just said, I'll just talk about whatever I feel like at the time. I said, great. You don't understand how hard it is to translate.
Yeah, I always feel sorry for the translator when, and I've seen you translate many times. It's been excellent, but Sigung would really talk, and I think,
yeah,
how the heck is the translator going to do that?
I had to time him because you don't understand when one word goes in here, then he is doing demo, and then you try to say, how am I trying to translate the first sentence of the, that's why it is a difficult job. But like I said, everyone was trying to contribute to Wing Chun at the time and in respect to Sigung. So we just did that script. So hopefully, and because the technology is not as good, you can't just insert it into a DVD and stuff like that. So I don't know when people are reading the things I wrote, can they really look at the DVD and then get some meaningful way out of it? So I just try to probably translate, but also to write. If you're just reading it, maybe you can still get something out of it.
I got a lot out of it, and I still do. I've always wanted to thank you for it because my journey in Wing Chun has been broken up because my Sifu Jim Fung, I was with him for a year and a bit, and then I left for a while, did a lot of yoga, and then a friend of mine introduced me to Susanna Ho, and I thought, well, I just like the fact that she trains one-on-one with people. So yeah. I was with her for about 2 years, and then
how Wing Chun was originally taught. Wing Chun is very hard to teach in public.
Yes.
Because the sensitivity, the feeling, the feedback, and all that is always been taught to a small group. Yeah, so it's not like different other martial arts. You mainly practice, copy the form, and then get used to the form. The deeper meaning behind each form. So unless you are tapped into that, you truly understand it when your teacher teaches you. Most of the time, you only, like Sigung said, there's no substance in the form. If you're barely just copying the form.
Yes. And it took me a long time to really improve. And the first few years, I thought I was hopeless, actually. I never did well at the International Wing Chun Academy in the gradings. I always seemed to blow it, and I thought, I'm just not a natural for this. I was sort of a natural at kickboxing because I'm just always strong and fit and fast.
That's another way of why is it hard to learn Wing Chun, because it's a lot of times against what Western martial art is all about. Power, yes, exactly. And strength and athleticism. Yes. But having said that, Sigung work on a lot of conditioning and athleticism and training, cardio training when he was young. I asked, because through the encounter of Sigung, I get to know him better, and I get to ask him those questions, how he trained when he was younger. So he told me he spent 2 hours on the pool every day.
Wow.
That's right. See, not many people heard that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. I was even taught, at one stage I was told not to do weights, not to do exercises because it was bad for my Wing Chun.
Depending on how good your Wing Chun is and how bad the power training exercise are. It all depends on you, you know. So, but again, like I said, people oversimplify things. Okay, so okay, yeah, if you do 1 hour of power training, but do you spend 1 hour doing the serum tail form? If you can get 1 hour serum tail form out of it, then maybe 1 hour power training is not that bad either.
Yeah.
But if you do 1 hour power training, but you only do 15 minutes of serum tail, of course it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
Because your mindset can't change your body to react. It takes time. What is Chinese Kung Fu stands for? What does Kung Fu stands for? Accumulation of efforts. So if you don't accumulate enough, how can you get any effort out of it?
Well, that's wise. So that's what it means. I've heard different versions of the word kung fu.
Again,
but
this is just my understanding of it. So personally, I don't go to the gym. I don't do all those because I'm just lazy. So I don't want to have a glorified reason why I don't go to the gym. I just prefer to do my forms and stance training and all that instead of going to the gym. But that's my take.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think that's wise. I'm just about to turn 65, so I'm sort of getting a bit, old. I can feel it. It's trying to get me. And the gym really puts the youth back into me. It puts the steel into my body, but I absolutely love my Wing Chun practice, and I spend more time in Wing Chun than in the weights and that sort of stuff. And I'm not after big muscles. I just want to keep my spine and muscles in good condition so that when I do my Wing Chun properly, then I've got that strong body behind it, but not using brute force or muscle, but
But see, the way you're doing it now is not the way most of the people go to the gym and do their workout, right? So that's why I said it's different. You need to understand why you're doing certain things. Okay, so if you look at Sigung's early days photos, you can tell the definition of his shoulder, his pecs.
Broad shoulders.
Exactly. So don't tell me
First time I saw him, I thought, this guy's a surfer. Look at those shoulders. I guess it's all that swimming, but he had amazing shoulders.
That's right. So I mean, everyone just look at the later stage of Sigung, the non-athletic, side of Sigung. But you've got to look at everything as a whole.
Yeah, well, there's been some great video coming out of Sigung doing the forms from like way back in the 60s and through, which I've really loved because you see him at different times in his life.
But I'm talking about the actual physical transition.
Yeah, right.
Look at it when he's prime. Look at his body. Like you said, it's like a surfer. It's like, so it's not a weak, typical skinny Chinese that you look at, right? That kind of body. That's right.
But most Westerners are weak, skinny or fat. But my dad was an obsessive. He was a policeman, so he's obsessively a trainer. Like he always did weights. He always ran, and as a little boy, I would follow him. And so I always had pretty strong body, and I'd see other guys my age and I'd think, wow, you haven't got any muscle at all. It's just straight, skinny arms. And then I eventually realized it's just not everyone's the same as me, like not everyone cares about such things.
Absolutely. So,
So could you just tell me a bit about your history in Wing Chun, like when you started and how you trained and how you met Sigung?
My martial arts training in Wing Chun starts from 1993 when I first start uni, and then I start Wing Chun. And then through my
In Sydney?
In Sydney.
Yep.
Sydney. So I really want to do martial arts at the time. I didn't really I check out a few different martial arts at that time, but eventually I chose Wing Chun is because Sifu Jim impressed me more with his 1-inch punch.
Right.
I'm taller than Sifu Jim, I'm bigger than Sifu Jim, but how come his 1-inch punch can blow me away?
Yeah.
So that kind of fascinated me. And then so I started in 1993. Then I met Sigung probably in 1997. I trained with him from 1997 onwards. I go to Hong Kong and train. So I was lucky enough because with Sifu Jim's permission that I could train there. So first time I trained there, I probably trained my whole summer holiday, blew up my budget, everything. I had to end up working there in Hong Kong so that I can survive. But those were the happy days, though. Yeah. So then after that, I've been training with Sigung probably once every 1 or 2 years periodically. Because as you can imagine, it's not cheap to go to Hong Kong and train for accommodations, tickets and everything. So that's how it started. So 93 to now, 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
30 years. Congratulations.
30 years. Yeah. And I'm still a learner, practitioner. So that's why I'm not a master. I'm not a Sifu, so to speak. Yeah.
I like your humility. It's really easy to get too big-headed about yourself, and
but luckily enough, I have mentors in my life. I had Sifu Jim, I had Sigung. Then now they're gone. They're doing Qisao in heaven. So, but I still have Mo Sibak. I still have Wong Sisuk, Peter Wong, Frederick Mo.
Yep.
I still have Dai Sing Albert. I still have, other mentors like Tony Psaila. So you know how good they are. So that gives you the reality of you still got a lot of room to improve.
Yeah.
That's all.
We're very lucky, aren't we, to have those guys?
Yeah, that's right. So like Dai Si Hing still practice, every day, and Mo Sibak, what his age, he still practice Wing Chun 2 hours a day.
Really, what a guy he is! Like,
That's
wow.
Right. So that's why they're good. They put in the amount of effort in it for that many years.
Yeah, right.
Nothing substitute that.
So tell me that definition of Kung Fu again.
The definition of Kung Fu is the accumulation of effort.
Accumulation of effort.
Yes.
Yeah, I practice every day. Some days not so much as other days, but what stuns me, I've only been doing it since 97, but the forms just still blow me out all the time. I'm just doing Chum Q and I think, and suddenly something goes, some thing about it suddenly makes sense to me.
Some joints may click, some movement may click, give you some more awareness of your body that you never felt before. But that's what the forms are for. That's the form is changing your posture, changing your coordination, changing what's within you. But first you have to learn the external bit, how it looks a bit more balanced. Then you can find the inner balance. So everything is from the outside to the inside. I mean, I'm not saying you can't train the inside and then improve on the outside, but most of the time we learn from copying. So we have to learn from the outside first until you start to understand your inside.
I was actually watching, you know, that video that Nima put up recently of it's Sigung with Sifu Jim, and he's got sort of like a purple, like a purple colored you know, kung fu suit on, and he's doing the dummy. And I watched that yesterday. I had a job. I drive a bus sometimes, and I was just sitting around for an hour. I was watching that, and I was just stunned by it. Like, it was like you said earlier about Sigung when he was younger. Suddenly I really felt his energy, and there was a lot of subtleties in what he did on the dummy. I thought, oh, I've been doing that wrong. You know, I saw a lot of things, and it was like, thank you. I wrote to Nima, thanks, man, because it was like a lesson straight from Sigung, and it answered a lot of questions I've had, you know. Yeah, it was great. And I think that video is not the same as obviously having a real master training you, but you can get so much from it. Just,
of course you can.
If you're training a lot, you sort of watch the master.
Of course you can, because you now know what to look for. It's just like, because the technology improved, so that's why all these are so valuable. You can see your mentors performing, then you can see their textbook as textbook, how it looks, how it feels. Back in the old days, they just go by what their memories. They just go by what their Sifu looked like when they were performing, or they go by what the books or the notes that they make when they were studying at the time. So I'm not saying videos are 100% the best way, because sometimes people will just choose the easy way out, but it's good for those that they have a good understanding of the art. Then these are the good reference. See, but a lot of times people, they just want to learn it from the video, then it will be wrong. So I always look at the video as reference. You know, I mean, yes, everyone will get a lot out of it if you have already got a good understanding of it.
On my Facebook page, I had something like 500 people following me on Wing Chun Mind Force. And I don't know what happened, but suddenly I had like 2,000 extra just appeared. And I said to my wife, what's this?
Ask Mark Zuckerberg, their marketing team.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but I got all these dudes from Africa, from India, all over. And I thought, is this some kind of like, you know, one of those weird farms or something? But they're real dudes. I sort of checked out, just randomly check them out. They're real people. As far as I can make out, they often write to me. And I've been feeling like, oh, I wish I could meet these guys. You know, I wish I could say, look, let's work together. I'll show you what I'm talking about. You know, what I'm trying to say on the video. I don't want them to get it wrong, but I know they will at times.
That's just whatever, they can only use whatever limited resources they have.
I just know they got no chance of going to Hong Kong or meeting somebody easily, even, you know, in the United States. There's not that many from our lineage over there. But there's enough people. If people have got money, they can travel and go and see the best people. And I always try to point them towards the best people if they're serious. But yeah.
That's all right. If they got a will, they will find a way. Okay, but Sigung, the way he practiced when he was 20 years old is different to the way he practiced when he's 30 years old. It's different to the way he practiced at 40 years old. It's different to the, it's just that everyone is so overwhelmed by the way he looks when he's, you know, towards the last 10 years. Okay. So, but it's all different because why? Every human being will evolve along with time. Okay, so what you see or what you saw at that time, Jim Fung's Wing Chun and William Leung's Wing Chun may be like that, but even, you know, what you're doing now is different to what you did back in 1997, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's all you just need a start, and then if you continue along the journey, you will find your own way of doing Wing Chun.
Yeah. And as you said before, the master comes when you start looking.
Yeah.
You know, when I first met, well, I've had incredible good luck, you know, meeting Sifu Jim, meeting Susanna Ho, Norman Ma. Then when I came up here to Northern New South Wales, I thought, oh God, you know, how am I going to do Wing Chun now? And then Richard Antonini and Ivan Howe virtually dropped into my lap. They just sort of moved to this tiny little.
They move up there just for you. See?
Yeah. Well, it felt like that. I trained with them just one-on-one as friends for years, you know, and I just feel incredibly lucky. And then one day Richard brings this man along to training. He looked like a really nice man, very mild, quietly spoken, didn't look very athletic. And I thought, oh, this guy must be like, you know, a new guy. Hi, you know, my name's Tony Psaila, he says. And Richard says, oh, yeah, Tony's just been running a seminar up at Surface. So I'm thinking, I mean, I should have known better, but I'm thinking, is this guy going to know much about Wing Chun? And then he did a couple of things.
Deceptive, isn't it?
Yeah, he did a couple of things, just blew my mind. I went, oh my God, this is like, Wing Chun's even more incredible than I imagined. And same as Sibak Frederick, you know, I was told that he was Sifu Jim's senior and he started back in the 50s. And when I met him, he just like, you know, smiling, older Chinese man, lovely wife. Oh, yeah. But then I was like, wow, this guy's really, really great. And he had that real Sifu's ability to see you, like see where you're at. Like he told me a couple of things that were just for me, and they still resonate with. It's like he gave me a challenge and sort of took me aside and said, Dave, I want you to think about this. You know?
Yeah, because Frederick Mo Sibak has been teaching for a long time. You know, so Sigung actually got, well, like when Sigung was so busy at the time that he couldn't teach all, he would get Mo Sibak to teach. So that tells you how much he recognized Mo Sibak's skills, not just in Wing Chun, but also in teaching.
Yeah, right.
But
well, I must admit,
it's just that because Mo Sibak never really tried to pursue his career as a martial arts instructor. So he always stayed low profile.
Right.
That's all. It's just one of the Chinese fun way. They just you may be interested to be a Wing Chun instructor, but I'm not. I just like to, you know, do what I do, and then that's what it is, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was lucky enough to meet Mo Sibak and then to help him passing the seats in you know, in Queensland and in all those places, because I know how valuable he is, and then how others, they may not see him until they see him.
And then when we had that 83rd birthday, I think, did I meet you there at the 83rd birthday?
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah, I think I did. My friend invited me to lunch with Peter Wong and Albert.
Yeah.
And I just walked in this restaurant, I saw and went, wow, like these guys, like all I want to do is talk about Wing Chun, and here's like two of the very best. And we had a great time chatting. And Albert's wife, Rebecca, yeah, she's such a sweetheart, and she was a funny lady and very, very. She taught me some good stuff too. You know, she obviously, I don't know how much she practices Wing Chun, but she knows what she's talking about. And me and Peter Wong, I speak a little Japanese, and he speaks it really well. So we sort of had this funny English-Japanese conversation, and you know. Yeah. He told me a Japanese word that basically means Nim Dao. And I looked it up and went, all right, you know, it's a different way of thinking. That's what the Japanese word meant. Albert and Sibak are two I really would like to have the privilege of training with. And I just miss Sibak, Mo Sibak.
Okay, he's in New Zealand, so feel free to go there to visit him.
Well, that's it. I mean, rather than going to Hong Kong, my urge is to go to New Zealand and train with him, and then to go to Adelaide. And beside Tony Psaila and Albert down there, there's Tony Blancow and Lindy Scott, who I really like. They're amazing practitioners too.
Yeah.
And like the rest of them, they're just really quiet and humble, and you'd never know what achievement they have.
Yeah, one backup history about Mo Sibak is he is probably the only person that had done so many hours of Chi Sao Sigung. There's no other ones, because he trained under Sigung when he was really young. Okay, and that's when Sigung was peaking at the same time when he was carrying Mo Sibak. So they did a lot of Chi Sao training. Yeah, so that's why you can't substitute that experience.
Absolutely, that's just incredible. Imagine being in that situation with a master like that.
That's right. So he's just at the right place at the right time.
Yeah. Now, you know, Richard Antonini, I highly regard him. He's certainly not Sibak or, you know, anybody like that.
Every one of us pick up something along the way.
Yeah, right? But so, Richard and I training all the time together, one-on-one, and Ivan, and we rolled for hours, you know, every week for years. And when I meet people to roll with them, that's the standard for me, is guys like that. And so most people just feel like fairy floss. I'm going, stop pushing, stop doing, you know, what are you doing? But yeah, I must get myself over to New Zealand. It's I'm always telling the guys over there, why don't you go to Mo Sibak, you know? And some of them do, but they don't seem to understand who they've got there. Like, he really is a treasure.
Well, through language barrier or through whatever, it's just depending on your interpretation, what you understand, and then how much you can gain out of training with those people. But I have to tell you guys, time is limited, because why? Everyone is getting older.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I use myself as a count. I'm 60, about to turn 65, so therefore,
that's right.
Those guys.
So you can't expect them to be there forever for you as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
and they need to be honoured. I really want to tell everybody about these guys, because they are very special and very humble. And
yeah, I'm fortunate that I can train with them probably year in, year out, once a year, that kind of thing. So that's why I'm very blessed in that way.
Yeah. I'm really enjoying talking to you, William. You know, you're a cool guy. I always thought you looked like a cool guy, but we haven't chatted like this before.
Sure, definitely.
Can I pick your brains a bit about some Chinese terms?
Okay.
Yeah.
You want the official translation, or you want?
No, just your take on stuff. But I know, I don't want to put you on the spot. I know some of these words have got all sorts of politics around them, but there's three terms. Obviously, Nim Dao, Nim Lik, and Lup Nim. You know, and
yeah. First,
I wondered if you could tell me.
First, you have to Lup Nim. First, you have to cultivate that thought.
Right.
And once you have cultivated that thought, Lup Nim, then it becomes the Lim Tao. Then once you have the Lim Tao, then you can generate the force, which is Lim Leg.
Right.
So there are 3 stages. First is to cultivate.
So Lup Nim, would you say it means to find the thought, like actually become aware of that? Would you start
starting? How do you discover something? You have to search and find.
Once you find, for a Westerner, the word thought for me is a very conscious mind thing. It's like a word or a text thing or something like that, rather than a.
Don't get too complicated of it. It's your initial thought. When you are doing the form, what were you thinking when you're doing the form? You're thinking as a beginner stage, you're just thinking how to move your hand, right? Then later on, your thoughts may be different. You're still moving the hand, but your thoughts may carry to other stuff, to all your different part of your body. How do you do the interconnections? And then later on, and then maybe is when you're doing a certain movement, what are the thinking process? So that even if just a thought, it can be translated into a lot of different things. So, but I wouldn't just try to say, oh yeah, that's the thought, and then you just got stuck with that thought.
Yeah,
your thoughts will always still evolve. Evolve.
Lup
means to lup just means setting, activation.
Really? Now that's a good word, activation.
Yes.
So activation of Lim.
Yes. That's right.
Which is basically Lim Dao, because Dao means just the type of mind, isn't it? Like
it's a certain way of thinking.
Yeah. But Lim
is just a thought. Lim is what you are thinking. Lim is what.
Would you say it could be a feeling?
No, is a result. Feeling is a result of your thoughts.
But are they conscious thoughts, like word thoughts, or it's a different, it's a visual thought?
They have to be conscious because you are actively looking for it. You're actively using it. So it's a conscious.
Right. But it is the way I think about it, which I think is right, is like it's a thought, but it's like a visual, like a 3D construct, like the Yi idea, that's a sort of feel my whole body inside and out.
If that what makes you think it will improve, then so be it. Doesn't matter. Don't get caught up with it. Because if you look at all this Chinese literature, talk about mind, talking about spirit, talking about all that, you read 100 books, they will have 100 different kind of definition. Because why? It's written by 100 different authors.
Yes.
Every one of them will think differently. That's why they will get different feelings. So don't get too caught up with the word. That's my advice for those non-Chinese people. Otherwise, you'll still be around and around in circles around that word.
No, that's really good advice, and very Chinese too, I must admit. It's this Chinese wisdom. I think, obviously, I think a bit too much. I come from that tradition of logic and thinking. But
Wing Chun is a thinking art. You can't practice without thinking. But if you think too much, then you can't practice.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why I told you those 3 stages. First, you have to activate. Once you understand and activate, then you can generate.
That's great. That's really great. activate, then generate.
Yeah, you have to look for it first. You have to look for it, then you can activate. If you don't even know what you're looking for, how can you activate?
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, there was a time when people were thinking of Nim Lik, and I think still some people do, that it's something that only Sigung had, and that it's his superpower. And I've always had issue with that. I just think,
no, it's his expression of it.
Right.
I've met other master can do the limbic thing, but they're not Sigung's lineage. But they don't call it limbic. They call it something else. So why does it matter?
Yeah.
And then you have to go through 10 different dictionary and then to find out what the other term is. Because once you achieve it, then you don't need to really explain and describe. Okay, because we're heavily influenced by Sigung. That's why we always want to try to follow his footsteps.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you're trying to follow his footsteps, don't just follow his last few footsteps. You've got to look at the whole process. He didn't realize that he got the Lim Tao when he was training in the earlier stage, did he? Yip Man only told him to Lup Nim.
Lup Nim,
Yip Man told him to activate, but he didn't know what to activate. Until later on, through years of practice, then he started to understand what is Lim Tao. Right? So everyone has to go through a certain stage. Sigung didn't born, with the limb leg. He didn't. It's through training. Okay? So, and without Yip Man telling him what to look for, then Sigung Kun may not be able to find it. Right? So it's just your mentor or your instructor tell you to do a certain thing, to look for a certain thing. So you have to go and look for it. Once you find it, then you can use it. Right? That's all. So don't get too caught up with limb leg or whatever. Even though you keep dwelling on the ideas of that term, but you won't improve in your Wing Chun perspective. Until you can do it. It's just all talk.
Yes.
That's right. So, but it's just people are so fascinated about it. So, and also when Sigung was just trying to use that term to remind us that we have to learn how to think, how to use our mind when we practice. So that's why we've got that reference. But Sigung is never Sigung's intention. I don't think so. That intention for you to really to spend too much time about working on what it really means. He actually want us to practice. So, but of course, many people want to talk about it and think about it more than practicing it. And again, like I said, if you don't spend hours and hours in accumulation of doing Sirum Tao, you will not really generate any Lim Tao. I mean, I'm not saying, Wing Chun or any other Chinese martial arts, all of them share that similarities, using the mind, using the body, using all those, but it's through those training that they can get it. So other martial arts, they will use a different phrase, different terms, different word. So, but then at the same time, a lot of people will be stuck by the word and then thinking that is the only thing that in that particular martial arts has got, but it's not. If you really study Chinese martial art as a whole, everyone shares those special ingredient that you're looking
Yeah.
for. Okay. All right. So it's just like Chinese cuisine, soy sauce. Each one will tell you they have their unique way to make that soy sauce. Right? Of course, you can taste differently with different kind of soy sauce, how it make. But at the end of the day, they're still soy sauce. Right?
Yeah.
So yes, I'm proud that we are lucky enough, we are fortunate enough to follow Sigung footstep, his expression of Wing Chun, Sifu Jim's expression of Wing Chun. But at the same time, it's not the one and only. To make it one and only, it has to be you, not them. Okay, that's how I see it.
It's to be you, not them. Exactly.
That's right. So it's their force, it's their lim tao, but it's not yours. Until you have yours, until you have activate yours, then it means something. Otherwise, it doesn't mean anything. Otherwise, you can just put it right down in the book or put it into the history book. That's about it. You know, Dai Xing's lim tao is different than Tony Psaila's lim tao. It's different to Mo Sibak's lim tao. It's different to Peter Wong's lim tao. Because each one of them are on their own. Each one of them have different attachment or receive different ingredient from Sigung. So how are you gonna get all the lim taos and then put it into your mind, put it into your own body? That's the challenge.
Yes, that's very well put. And this is exactly why I wanted to talk to you. You know, it's just cool to get.
But probably it's not. It probably is not a cool thing, because why? Then I debug all those commercial marketing that their special ingredient is not so special anymore.